Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. So we're in our third of this mini series of important questions to ask these certain units. Today we're going to be doing the Canoptek Macrocytes, which is another one of our new units from the Kill Team box. So we're going to be asking, I think it's 5 questions I've got this time. 5 questions such as, what's their best loadout? Are they better than the Tomb Blades for Scout? Is it worth taking Tomb Crawlers or Cryptothralls with the unit? These questions are going to be answered as well as a few more. And yeah, should we just get into it? Let's get into it. So I'm going to throw the data card on the screen for you now, just so that you can see what we're talking about. If you want to pause the video just to have a look, you can do that. Let's get into the first question then. What's the best loadout for these macrocytes? Because there's quite a lot to get into when it comes down to their war gear and their range and melee options. Well, the melee option isn't an option. So the first option is the Gorse Scalpel. So that is a very basic range attack. It's kind of like a Gorse Reaper in a way, 18 inches. It's got lethal hit, strength 4, -1 AP, 1 damage. It's okay, not too bad, that's fine. You can replace that with a Tesla Caster, which is kind of like a mini Tesla Carbine. It's got no AP, we've got Assault, Sustain Hits 1, not Sustain Hits 2. The third option is the Atomizer Beam as well as the Nano Scarab Projector. So one of those is an actual weapon and the other one is an ability. So the Atomizer Beam, a closer range weapon at 12-inch range. Strength 6 though, which isn't too bad, so you get a likely wound in the smaller stuff on 2s or 3s. -1 AP, 1 damage. But you get the war gear option of Nano Scarab Projector. This is where once per battle round, friendly Necrons that are within 3 inches get an additional wound when they're using reanimation protocols. Anytime they activate reanimation protocols, likely in our command phase, but potentially with stratagems it could be in a different phase, you're going to get an extra wound on top, which could be really useful when you've got like a Canoptek Reanimator, which gives you an extra D3 on top of that. It starts to stack up, so that is a decent option, even though the weapon is slightly worse due to the lack of, a lack of lethal and assault and sustain hits. But I think I prefer that so far. Then there is a fourth option, which is you get to get rid of your Gorse Scalpel, and instead you're going to be replacing it with an Accelerator Mandible. So you're basically getting rid of all your ranged weaponry at this point, and the Accelerator Mandible is Canoptek units within 3 inches in the fight phase. They get to improve their weapon skill by 1. So if you're within 3 inches of a Canoptek Wraith unit, their weapon skill goes to a 3+, and that isn't a +1 to hit, don't forget, that is just a change of characteristic. So if you've still got a +1 to hit bonus from maybe command protocols, if you're playing the Awakened Dynasty, you can actually have your Wraiths hitting on 2s. But you've given up your range attack for your macrocytes. So out of the 4, I mean, it all depends on what units are flanking the macrocytes if you were to play that way. If it's Wraiths, you go with option 3, which was the Nano Scarab Projector, or Warriors that would be in fact. Wraiths or Warriors, you go with the Projector for the extra reanimation wound. If you are playing Wraiths, you really could go with the Mandible, but you do give up your range attack. It's either or. Number 3, I think I quite like the extra reanimation roll. I don't think it's worth taking the standard weapons, the Gorse Scalpel or the Tesla Caster, without taking one of the 2 war gear abilities. I think that's the only thing they've got going for them, apart from the other thing, which is the Harassment Swarm Aura, which is basically units within 3 inches, it's a -1 to hit them. Next question, should we be adding a Geomancer to the unit of macrocytes? Now we mentioned this in the Geomancers video, so it is a slight repeat question, but if you've not seen that video yet, this is going to be brand new to you. If you do select a Geomancer, he also gains the Scout 8-inch ability, which will go in line with the macrocytes who also have the Scout 8-inch ability. Personally though, I just don't think the Geomancer is needed, especially if you're not flanking, warriors with these macrocytes and you're running them solo as like secondary action monkey kind of thing, then I definitely would want them as cheap as possible. I wouldn't be adding a Geomancer to that unit, which is already quite expensive as it is. What is it, 85 points? Yeah, 85 points, then adding a Geomancer on top. If anything, I would be thinking about replacing the macrocytes rather than actually adding to the macrocyte unit. But if you are running alongside Wraiths or Warriors, then those units are kind of like tar pits. There's a lot of wounds, a lot of durability, especially with the Technomancer or Auric and the Diviner in there. So they're okay to invite pressure in the no man's land on no man's land objectives, and they can absorb a lot of damage. Now, if you've got that Geomancer, that 12-inch deep strike denial or strategic reserve denial, it will become useful in some games. Not every game, just some of them. And also, if you're with an 18-inch, you're going to be slowing enemy units down by 2 inches in the movement phase, 2 inches in the charge phase. That could work against certain factions, like, Dark Angel's Deathwing, for example, which have got Terminators. They're either going to be deep striking in, which now has to be a 12-inch range rather than a 9 because of the Geomancer, or they're going to be foot slogging, and they're already quite slow. I believe they move 5 inches. If you've got a -2 to their movement, then they're only moving 3 inches, and there's a -2 to their charge. So there are some matchups where the Geomancer is really good, and other times there's some matchups where it's going to do absolutely nothing. But do you actually need to put him in with the Macrocytes? I don't think so. I really don't think you do. You could just run them solo alongside and hide them behind a ruin. If you were to be adding a Geomancer, should we add more to this unit? Should you be adding the Tomb Crawlers or Crypt Thralls? Would you add them to the unit? I mean, you're giving the Cryptek more survivability with the Crypt Thralls, with a Feel No Pain save, or just more wounds in general with either of these units. Now, the Crawlers have got their own ability where you get to ignore modifiers. Is that going to be useful for the Macrocytes? I don't think so. I don't really think so at all. And to be honest, I just wouldn't add the Geomancer in the first place. And we've got another battery change. I've been doing too many videos lately. So where was I? Crypt Thralls and the Crawlers, right? Yeah, I wouldn't add them, and I wouldn't even add the Geomancer, to be honest with you. But if you were to add them, I still wouldn't add them. I wouldn't be spending even more points on this unit that isn't really that good in the first place. Not for me. Now, are they better than the Tomb Blades for the Scout ability? Because Tomb Blades are another unit that have Scout, along with the Trike Stalker. Trike Stalkers are a little bit different because they're a bit more expensive and they're a vehicle. Not a fair comparison, but Tomb Blades are 70, I want to say 75. I'm going to have to double check because we don't want to get too many things wrong in these videos. 75 points for 3. Now, the thing is, with the Tomb Blades, that's 10 points cheaper, first of all, so you're saving 10 points for whatever you want. Their Scout move is 9 inches, not 8 inches, so you're gaining an extra inch of Scout. Not massive, but it's just an extra bonus that they have. They're moving 4 inches faster than the Macrocytes. They can move after firing. That's another big bonus. They've got Stealth, if you were to take the War Gear option, which was Shadow Loom, or the Stealth ability. They've got 2 wounds each, not 1 wound, and they're toughness 5, not toughness 3. So there's just lots of bonuses or perks to take in Tomb Blades than to take Macrocytes. And they've got better range with their range attacks as well, because their range is up to 24 inches. So pretty much everything points in favour of the Tomb Blades over the Macrocytes. So I would always pick the Tomb Blades. I mean, I don't really play Tomb Blades that often. I'd rather take Ophidian Destroyers, but now we're talking, a little bit more points. The only thing that the Macrocytes do have going for them, though, is the synergy, of course. And that is if you were to even utilise that piece of war gear. We kind of just briefly touched upon it in the previous question or so ago with the ability that they have, which was, where's it gone? Ability. The Accelerator Mandible, where units within 3 inches at a Canoptek get that +1 to their weapon skill, effectively giving them weapon skill 3+. That's the only advantage that they have over Tomb Blades, because obviously Tomb Blades can't do that, so there's lack of synergy with Tomb Blades. But I personally would just rather have my fast attack unit doing their own thing, doing their own secondaries. Maybe it's behind enemy lines, maybe it's established locus, area denial. There's loads of cards that can interact with Tomb Blades and actions as well. So I would just always select Tomb Blades over these Macrocytes. So what's my verdict? I mean, this wasn't a massively long video because there's not many things to ask about this new unit. They're a synergy piece that we don't really need. We didn't necessarily need this. And they're quite an expensive one. 85 points is a lot. It is a lot of points. If they were like 50 to 60 points, then I would maybe give them a little bit more value. Not necessarily saying that they're OP all of a sudden, because they wouldn't be. But I'd give them a little bit more of my time and study them a little bit harder. But when they're 85 points, you just think, get out of here. They're just not worth it. They couldn't go any lower than 50, to be honest with you, because then you're talking Canoptek Scarab level, Locust Destroyer, one single Locust Destroyer kind of level. And when you've got 5 models in a unit doing the deep strike screening, that's quite good. So I think they couldn't never go sub 50. But 50 to 60 I think would be okay, as they currently are, 85 points. I mean, you could go get a Reanimator, get a Canoptek Reanimator for 75 points. That does kind of similar things. You get to get D3 on your, D3 extra wounds with your Reanimation. It's got its own melee and ranged attack. It's got a 4+ Furno pain save. And I'm just going to quickly check the other stats because I bet they're much better as well. Canoptek Reanimator, toughness 6, 3-up save, 6 wounds. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You would definitely take a Reanimator over these Macrocytes. So for me, my verdict, they're not great. And what we got, I'm going to have to count these smiley faces I've got here. S, A, B, C, D. I pretty much put them in D. And yeah, I'm never going to use them. I don't see why you would use them. But if you guys know how you would use them, or you've got any better suggestions for me to use them, let me know down in the comments down below. Help me out because this is new for everyone. But I can't see it, so maybe you can. Guys, thank you all for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.